Would it be observations with Otsu? It is December 18th. This will be the last observations with Otsu before Christmas. This time next week will be Christmas Day. I will not have an observations with Otsu for today or for Christmas Day, of course, or Christmas Eve. I will probably do it the day after, or perhaps I might just skip the week and just have you guys enjoy the holidays. Maybe I'll do a shorter update. I'm not really sure yet. And so I got that going on. I hope you're having a good holiday season if that's something that you celebrate. I definitely do. Christmas is my favorite holiday, and I tend to try to enjoy it, especially more and more now that the crypto world has helped me to embrace financial freedom. And that's pretty much all, pretty much that's the main reason that we're here. Like, I'm interested in the tech. I think a lot of you guys are as well. And maybe if you don't know it, at least you find it interesting. But most of us, let's be honest, we're here for the, if you have it, if you're looking at charts, you're looking for money, right? And so that's the thing. That's why you're here for observations with Otsu. Also, you want to see my angle on the charts, and I'm happy to give it to you every week. So the theme of this video is we're going to take a look at BONK. In particular, it was a pretty big run up for last week. We're going to look at other meme coins as well, like the WIF token and some of the other ones as well. I won't go into too many of them because a lot of them are probably a little too smaller of a market cap, especially for YouTube. And I try to go to the side of err on the side of caution, I should say. A lot like there's a lot of influencers that even have 600,000 followers that have no problem sharing $1 million market cap charts, and shame on them. They're there to take money out of you. They are, okay. They are. There's no dancing around that, right? And so, if you have an audience of 600,000 people and you're shilling a coin that's 1 million or less, chances are the liquidity is going to be 10% of that. So you have like 200, let's just double that and say 200,000 liquidity. You're going to move the markets, okay? You're going to inject liquidity into that, which means they've already bought, and I've guaranteed that, and they're going to exit out, and you are going to be buying their bags. And so, whatever, we're all here to make money, but I'm also not going to set people up like that. In my opinion, that's morally wrong. That's may not necessarily be illegal in some senses, but that's morally wrong for me to do. And so I don't do that. I have a hard cap on when I talk about things. I will talk about $2 million market caps and 1 million, but I will talk about them in private groups, and that's what my Knowhere Premium is about. I'll mention that here in just a second in the preliminaries. Introduction for this, you guys know the drill. Weekly perspective on Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana. We'll cover a few other ones. I think I'll cover more memes today. We'll cover probably AVAX as well, and we'll just look at the nature of the charts, because if you are already in my free Discord, you know that I'm actually kind of bearish right now. And so how does that reconcile with the fact that Solana is at $72 right now? And overall there's still some coins going up. The meme coins and ecosystem tokens are still doing well. We'll get into that, okay? If you're interested in token-based ecosystems as well, I only cover those in Knowhere Premium, by the way. And so I want to emphasize Knowhere Premium very strongly because I have a discount for a few different reasons. One, that is where you get all of my privatized, like, alpha, so to speak. And it's one of those reasons, there's a few reasons. One, I do feel like it's worth my time. I do feel like there should be a value exchange. It's only $20 a month, and that's not a lot. It's a locked-in price. If you get in now until the end of the year, you can pay $20 as long as it's open, right? Another thing is that people don't, like, when I post these kind of things on Twitter, I don't really get appreciated anyway. And so the thing is, I'll post things like this on Twitter. I'll get 2 or 3 likes, which I don't really care about engagement per se, but I'm kind of talking into the wind, or people say that's not enough. I just had somebody today ask me for like a video showing my thoughts on just something random, and I'm like, I don't do that. Okay, I don't do random requests like that. Okay, it needs to be siloed. It needs to be under my Discord brand kind of thing, because I need to create the terms to make those things happen. I have no problem doing those kind of videos. I really don't. I do have a problem when I just get sniped these messages like on off hours on a Sunday night or Saturday when I'm already busy, and frankly, you should be busy too. Um, I do have a life outside of crypto, and that's why we're here, right? We're here to make money, so we have lives outside of crypto. So don't get too consumed by this, okay? I'm happy to do those, but there's a time and a place for those videos, so I'll get into that later on. But that being said, you're here for the charts. Do some short preliminaries. Let's get started. So for preliminaries, most of it's going to be around Knowhere Premium and my scripts. And so if you're not interested, you can fast forward. But I do think it's worth sticking around because I have a lot of updates to share. So Knowhere HQ is my Discord. It's a free Discord. Everybody can join. Knowhere HQ Premium is a paid version of that where I go more into detail. I have trading portfolios. That actually should say trading portfolios. I actually have three. And so I started with just one, regular coins. I got into a small cap trading portfolio. And then I also have a Solana ecosystem token portfolio where we trade only Solana tokens. That one has been by far our most active and most profitable portfolio. That alone there, like I if you I mean Knowhere Premium is $20 a month, right? And so if you would have just invested $20 into the small, like I'm not saying that you should, but if you invested $20 into the Solana tokens, you would have made your money to pay for premium for an entire year already. So that's how much money we've made, percentages we've made with the Solana tokens. Okay, every single token that I mentioned is up, and so yes, that's like all tokens are kind of up in some sense. So that's not necessarily saying much, but most of the caps have done 2x, 3x, and I just had one do 10x this morning, and so it's been a really good time. It's been a very active channel. We've got three portfolios. All three of them are up. All three of them are doing healthy. I think the main trading portfolio is up about 20-25%. So everything is doing really well. And I post the actual prices, things like that. We started at $3,500 for the main portfolio. I don't mention the price points for the small caps or the Solana tokens, basically because of sensitivity reasons, of liquidity issues. And that if someone's smart enough to look at SoulScan, they could find out who I am, and that's not where I want to go with that. So those are anonymous price balances. The trading portfolio is not. It started at $3,500 and it's right around 4,200 right now, and so that's doing good as well. And also you get daily video updates. So what I do is you get a daily video for free in Knowhere HQ, and then you also get a second video for Knowhere Premium. And so you get two videos per day, roughly around 15 to 20 minutes total for both of those videos combined. And so you get basically 20 to 30 minutes of video every day for 5 days a week. And so that right there alone is worth the $20. And so why am I mentioning this? Like why would I like Otsu, do you need the money or what's going on here? Like what's the point of this? So it's a combination of things. It's a combination of people have shown lots of interest to get me to talk about these things. And so it's a combination of one, this is information that I like. It does take time to go on the charts. It takes time to research. Like I went to college for writing research. This is part of what I know how to do and I can do it well. Um, and so it's one of these things where I could go, like I literally could go to like a company, you know, to the next big city that I live close to, get a nice job. I could probably make 150,000 a year. I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that because I like what I'm doing now. Crypto has allowed me to work more towards financial freedom. I have a wife and I have a son. We are allowed to go anywhere we want. We're going on a trip this week. We go on trips all the time. That allows me the flexibility to do this. And so I already researched this anyway. A lot of you guys want that. And so all I do in exchange is charge a small fee. And I do that for a few reasons. One, my time is valuable. I feel like it is valuable. And if you value my time and my information as well, then you would also appreciate that value as well. It's $20 a month. It's very cheap. Very, very cheap. And so if you sign up today and or by the end of this year, you will maintain that $20 discount. I'm going to change the price to $30 in January 2nd. And so if you are interested in this, you can sign up now, spend 20 bucks, see how you like it. Or I have a 7-day free trial. If you prefer to like that as well, give it a shot. If you like it, you can stay at that $20 price point. If you don't, then that's fine. But if you do try to sign up later, it's going to be higher. So just keep that in mind. This is a launch-based pricing. It's never going to be this low again. It's never going to be this low again. So and I'm kind of working at a loss right now as it is. So um, going with that, that's I hope that's some incentive to join. That does help support me. It's to help support my day to day, because it allows me to buy an extra cup of coffee or whatever, like, and just basic things. It's also a way to show support. And $20 isn't that much, so that's pretty much Knowhere Premium. We also do lots of charts. We also have trade discussions. We have specialty videos. We do one about once every 2 weeks. I am a little bit delayed for the next video. The first video was about Solana ecosystem tokens. The second video, which I'm going to be uploading in the next 24 hours, is going to be BRC20 ecosystem, what that means, what's involved with it. That is related to current day because a lot of chains are doing very bad. The gas fees are very high because of things like ordinals, and what's called XRCs. It's a relative to BRC, so to speak. It is, but it isn't, and that's why the video is important to explain those things. That video is going to be posted within 24 hours of this published video, and so we'll see how that goes. But Knowhere Premium is very interesting. If you like it, feel free to sign up. No pressure. Not trying to plug, but that's a way to directly support me. I am not sponsored in any way, shape, or form. I don't really like sponsorships because I don't like to plug, an exchange or anything in particular that you may not like, and it sounds like advertisement, right? I like to work on my own, and so if you've appreciated my work, you get more of this. You get, Knowhere Premium is the best place to find the most intimate interaction with me, as far as all the details, things like that. You get priority for conversations as well. So, anyway, that's Knowhere Premium. I'm going to talk about my scripts for a second as well, and then we'll get into the video. So, I also have Aroon Pro scripts, and so one of these is called the Apex Classic Apex Pro Combo script. These are two scripts together. And so what this does is it allows you, it's a TradingView script that you can directly add to TradingView, and it'll give you automatic signals for any asset that's on TradingView, any of them, crypto, forex, stocks, whatever you want. It works on all time frames. The neat thing, the unique thing about this is that it has built-in entries and also built-in stop losses as well. So it'll give you a buy signal, let's say, and then it'll also give you a place to put your stop loss, and it allows to give you a much more uniform training wheels type of script. It's not necessarily for beginners either. Like it's beginner friendly, but hobbyists and pros can use this as well. And so I have two different ones. I have Apex Classic, which is a more of a basic line script if you're looking just for basic trades, with basic criteria. You can use that. If you want Apex Pro, Apex Pro is a higher risk but higher reward version of Classic. Now, I actually tend to use Classic more because it's just easier to use. Apex Pro is for people that maybe spend more time on the screen. It is higher risk, but it's also higher reward, so just keep that in mind. So both of these together are sold together as one package. You can do a lifetime option, or you can do a 4-month payment plan, either one. And so you also get additional Discord benefits with that. That's a new feature that hasn't been launched just yet, where you'll basically get access to Discord, the Discord bot as well, and that's coming within the next 30 days. I also have live continual backtesting. It's one of these things where I've done 6 backtests, I believe, and so here's the first one that I did. And so I took and I'm not hiding any of this. This is just a presentation I've done before. Apex Classic script on the 1 day and the 12 hour, and this is the method that I used, the Monte Carlo method. It was a live back test, so I recorded it live. This is an hour and a half video that I recorded live, with maybe 3 minutes worth of editing taken out of it, just because I coughed or sneezed or whatever. And so I've given live back tests, and what the pricing is based off of one trade. And so based off of the average one trade of the script is what I am charging for this. And so this might go up, this might go down, but right now it's relative to one trade. And so I believe that is the best possible deal that you could get. And so that was by design. I live back tested it and I said, all right, this is the performance. I've showed you this performance live, and this is what I'm going to charge based off of the one trade average. And so, and that's a lifetime script. So go ahead and check that out. I'm going to leave it in the description. I don't want to talk too much about it, but I do. This is a fantastic way to support all of my work. This script and other scripts I've worked on for the past 4 years. So this is something I've, and part of that's by so I could see the entire market cycle too. And so it's been time tested, it's been back tested, it's been constantly refined over the years. So it's not just you see a lot of people advertise things like this, and I can understand why people are leery. Like, oh, you boast 500% gains or 10,000% gains, but you did that during a bull market. Well, this is not the back test. I did random back testing. A lot of the back testing was done during the bear market or during choppy markets as well. Okay, and so this has been time tested where it does not include only the bull markets. It includes every aspect of every market. Okay, so this is not a one-sided back test. This takes the entire back history of Bitcoin and other scripts as well, or other coins as well. I'm sorry. So leave the link in the description. I'm gonna do actually a dedicated video for this, maybe later this for the rest sometime this year. We only have 2 weeks left, but um, kind of going into that. So I really want to emphasize this a lot. But this is actually a fantastic way to support me. Probably the best way to support me. And so I greatly appreciate it. And that also helps support you. I hope that you could trade better than you have. So anyway, that's all the preliminaries. Let's get into the video. All right, we're going to go to Bitcoin here. We're going to cover the weekly time frame first, as it tends to be the case. We're going to go ahead and delete everything. So we start with a fresh chart. Um, fresh week. This is the week before Christmas. I know some of you guys celebrate, some of you guys do not. I personally do, for more reason than one, not just cultural, but also as far as my faith. But as far as this goes, the markets have tended to have some sort of impact on in regards to Christmas and the holiday season, depending on the nature. Like actually, depending on the year, it's typically been a very good year, honestly. And so uh, I think we tend to have two green months for like December first year green month, December of the second year green, the third year tends to be red. I think we're on a green year so far as this goes, but the price does tend to kind of stagnate as far as liquidity and order books are concerned. And so I don't really, first of all, one, I don't expect that to change. Two, it doesn't really affect my trading anyway. You guys know that I never share volume charts. I never share order books. I never look at order flow. That's not how I personally trade. I know a lot of profitable people that do. I'm not knocking it. I don't want you to think that just because I don't use something like Elliott Wave Trading, for example, doesn't mean that I hate it or anything like that. It's just it doesn't cater to my strengths. I know a lot of great traders that use EWT. I've heard a lot of people say that EWT is very similar to Aroon in the way that I explain things, and so it's very eerie. I talk to like Credible Crypto a lot. He's one of the people I talk to the most, and so we've discussed very often how Aroon and EWT are very similar, and so I can't like EWT is a different language to me, but Aroon still makes sense in that regard. And so the thing is that's a Aroon is my strength. EWT might be his strength or whoever else's strength. And so you work with what you get, right? And so I know a lot of people that use volume, but I've never been able to use volume in the way that it's mattered profitably long term. Whereas Aroon, I definitely have. So just keeping with my strengths. Now, as far as the weekly goes, we had the first closing week in 8 candles. We really needed that. We really, really did, because it helps kind of reset. Usually, um, the Generally speaking, there's a higher probability that we'll get a red candle if we've had a lot of green ones. That is true. It just happens. It doesn't necessarily have to happen, but it does happen because of probability sakes. So that's kind of where we're at with this. We also are kind of above the high right here on the RSI, and so that also brings something unique in perspective. If we kind of look at the weekly time frame where we've gone above the 40, um, and almost every time we've had a red candle up at those highs, that has kind of been a topish scenario. So here's another example. I mean, we did have I just said that and I'm wrong. We had two bearish candles right here. I thought those were actually green, but those are actually black and blue, not red and green. I'm not colorblind, I promise. So those are bearish candles, I should say, and that did cause a run up. So that doesn't necessarily mean that we are going to drop down right here. We had a pretty good wick on that, pretty good reaction so far today as well. Um, but we are above into this territory, which means we could stretch up higher, which is very possible, or we could, end up more to the downside. We don't really know offhand, right? The high time frame is still bullish. Aroon is starting to trend downwards as far as the bullish price action is, but also trending up on the bearish one. And so this isn't a consolidation. This is not a bearish consolidation like it normally would be. It was not a cross either. So we're kind of in a standpoint. This is where the Aroon really has a hard time trying to decipher the long term for this as far as like the next 2 months from now. And that's where, if we don't know, we can go to actually higher time frames. So if we go to the 2 week chart, we can see that we also have the same period of bullish candles. And then we also have a trend that's also trying to go up while the bullish side is also going down. So we can't really interpret that much either. But this does look very similar to this in that regard. So there's a very good chance that we could go up even to all time highs relatively soon. And so we'll see where that goes. I believe the halving. A lot of people have been talking about the halving in regards to all time high. I don't really care either way. I don't care what the price is at the time of halving. I don't care that we go up all time high. I don't care that we're lower. I have a lot of very reputable people that I know that disagree on this, and so I take a neutral standpoint. I think it's April, isn't it? Let me check here. So I just checked, and it's roughly right on April. It doesn't really specify, so it would be, let's just say, the first week of April. So somewhere right here, like, could it go up in this time span? I think it's possible. Definitely do. I think it's likely. Probability wise, it's slightly unlikely. But the I think a lot of people will take solace though that probability doesn't necessarily matter when it comes to technical analysis. It does for me in the way that I trade, but for most people, it does not. So, like I said, I don't care whether it goes all time high or not. That's not my concern. My concern is I play the charts based off of everything else. So far, the Aroon is still crossing down, but nothing's confirmed yet. This is still a bullish trend. We can even go higher. Maybe look at the 3 week. 3 week is in a trend here as well. Everything looks pretty solid. Let me go to the 1 month really quick. And so basically the same thing. So a lot of things are telling me that the bullish price action is still good to go. Um, and the price point from now to the all-time high, like even if we go up to the top, is like 50%. That's very easily, we could achieve that in one candle, to be honest with you. And so markets look like they're going up just a little bit here. And so, but that's the time frame that we're looking at with this. We still have the AO um, on the downside here on the monthly. So that's another thing. We were positive way back in 2017, and we never even dropped below until right around 2022. So that's another thing. If we go above that, then we're talking probably a parabolic run in some sense. And let's go. I'm gonna go back down to 2 weeks just to see here. Yeah, we've been up here for this. And honestly, the AO is, I don't talk much about the AO, but as far as a long term trend, like one weekly higher, it tends to be a good perspective on the markets. Um, and I think I'm just going to go back to the 1 week here. And so we'll see how that goes. But as far as this weekly candle, bearish candle, and that's completely okay. One thing we can do with this distribution structure is take a look at this previous one and kind of take the high above here, take the high down here, and then kind of go towards the side on that. And so now you have a medium point here. It actually retested above this midline. And so that's pretty good. This is still good for bullish continuation. I see nothing wrong with this long term as a bearish sign. This is not bearish to me at all. So, well, Otsu, why did you say that you're bearish in Discord? Well, that's mainly in regards to the next basically rest of the year, which is only like 10 or 12 days. So, and what I mean by I'll get to that more in the daily structure. But overall, I just the biggest context of that is I just think that we're going to go to a slight cool down period. That could be 2 weeks. That we could recharge back in January. That really depends. But this here, all the red is not bullish to me, of course. Um, but I just think that we're slightly overextended. I don't think that we're topish by any means when I say that. I just think that we are probably due for maybe a reaccumulation period, and the holidays would take a perfect time to do that. So anyway, we're right here. We closed above the mid, still looking pretty good. RSI Aroon still looking good on that one. Let's go ahead and go to the daily. Got a fade here. You had a flash drop here, kind of recuperate, but we still have a a fade, and so we've been getting in a series of lower candles, and so nothing has really told me that we are ready for bullish continuation. So one thing I could share is like we take the top of this and you have your structure like so. And so until we cross above this, I don't see any reason to be bullish. Another reason is because we actually crossed bearish on the Aroon. That's the main reason why I'm bearish right now, is because this is not going to flash jump. So when you get an Aroon flip like this, you will it's very, 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 very rare that you just get a flash pump for 20%. Okay. You almost always do it when the Aroon already flips. And so that's why I like the Aroon as a trend tool, because it behaves for signaling um, more like a smooth trend line. But as far as like monitoring the price, it behaves more like an exponential trend line, if that makes sense. Or moving average, I should say. But it also helps with momentum. It's a multi tool, and so that's what I appreciate about that. But it's bearish right now. No reason to think that I'm bullish until we cross this line or until the Aroon flips to the bullish side. Now the RSI is above the 50, so we could still work with this. What could happen here is that we could get a bullish cross at some point in the next 3 days. This could qualify for a bounce, and then everything is good to go. But we'll see how that goes. Right now, that's bearish to me. Um, excuse me. We do see a protection of these lows so far, so that is a good sign that that could happen. That we could get um, a bounce here. Another thing too is if there's no follow through on this bearish cross within two candles, this becomes a low consolidating bullish consolidation, which is actually a very bullish sign. So what we could do is this could come back down, get that consolidation, and then we actually do get a bounce, and usually that ends up in a pretty good impulsive bounce. And I don't have time to explain it, but basically it's a liquidity issue. Is like the market kind of is tricked to thinking that we are overextended, which we look overextended, and so all these things qualify right now. We look overextended, but we probably are not. And so I do believe that. I do believe that we look overextended, but I also believe that we're not as overextended as people might think, because new money has entered the markets for the first time in a long time. The markets have been exhausted. Like this time last year, one of the reasons why my buy signal at 16, 17,000 was so important to me is because I knew that everybody that I just had an idea. I didn't know, I guess, but I had an idea that everybody that wanted to sell would have already done so. They had 2 years to do it, right? The price was 80% from the highs. Anybody that wanted to sell probably already did. And everybody that's still here is probably ready for it to go to zero if it does. And so the question to ask last year was the biggest question that people asked last year is, where are the buyers? And so I decided to ask, where are the sellers? There are no sellers. The sellers are already sold. And so now you look at the, like literally that was 12 months ago. Now you see ordinals on BTC, you see Sol tokens on fire going, I had one go 1,000% in the past 2 days. And so it begs the question, where did all this stuff come from? Well, it was always here, is that most people just didn't want to pay attention to it. Okay. And I've had my fair share of telling people I told you so. And so I don't want to do that again. That being said, the innovation was always here. All that tech was always here. All that stuff was always here. People just didn't want to see it. Okay. And so now people see it. And that's kind of where we're at. And people are willing to put their money where their mouth is. And so that being said, I don't think, the people that have bought in for the past 3 months, I don't think they plan on selling. And so we do look overextended, but I don't think that that's going to. That's where reaccumulation comes in, and that matches my ideas for the next 2 to 3 weeks. So we'll see how that goes. But as far as this goes, getting a bounce, looking good so far. Break below the 40,000 marker. We're probably going to go back down to the breaker at 38,000. And that's pretty much it for Bitcoin. Let's go ahead and go to Ethereum. All right, going to Ethereum on the weekly. So a similar interaction. I'm not going to change some of this because it's kind of relevant, but I will clean this up as far as real estate. So we did have another bearish candle, kind of what we were looking at. This is from 2 weeks ago. We looked at this closing candle. We looked at it close to this resistance point. Same structure, had this distribution like Bitcoin. Looking at the last distribution period, looking at the mid. So here's your high, low, mid. It stopped right at the lows, basically from this candle structure. And I think we looked at it from this structure as well. Rejected off of that. Rejected pretty hard, but this is not an engulfing candle, so there is some solace in that. Not much. I don't typically hold engulfing candles very strongly in that regard. But it was still within this low right here, and so that was okay. Another thing is, as far as the local structure, and we'll look at that on the daily, is that it retested this point, so that's still okay. Um, so we're kind of stuck, and I've mentioned this really for the past week, is that we're kind of stuck between 2140 again and 2340. And so I've been very vocal about how frustrated I am with Ethereum and just kind of how it's very patient to take its time to give us some sort of movement, right? And I think a lot of that is by design. A lot of that is because Solana and other ecosystems are doing very well. Solana is very hot right now. It's very hot, and so it's solid in that regard. But a lot of things with Ethereum are kind of sluggish. A lot of the ordinal situations is causing congestion on Ethereum, Arbitrum, and I think AVAX. And so AVAX is suffering as well in that regard. And that's something that I had kind of mentioned before, that we'd play the break of this, and we'll get into that later. But as far as Ethereum goes, a little sluggish in that regard, but that's okay. As far as the price action is concerned, for the weekly, we held above that range, and so now we're still looking between that 2140. It's basically as simple as that. Aroon under a or a bearish consolidation, I should say, pretty decently wide. The bearish structure is at 27-28%. So you got roughly about 4 more weeks of this. So don't be surprised that Ethereum doesn't do anything until mid-January. And I don't want to say, I really don't want to say these things. I always hate saying things that may sound opposite, but that's just how it is. That's just how I see it. It's how the Aroon sees it, and you're better off that way as well. So, as far as if that ends up being correct, the last thing I want to do is lie to you. Last thing I want to do is try to talk you up, and everything like that. So that's what I see with this. Kind of just choppy for now. Aroon looks healthy. Everything else on the weekly. Going on the daily, we just had the bearish cross. So again, that's one reason why I'm actually bearish here, is because Bitcoin and Ethereum are both on the bearish side of the Aroon perspective. And so I'm going to wait for these to flip bullish again. Because the thing is, yes, it could bounce here, but there's a low probability of a bullish bounce when you get a bearish cross. Now, you could get a bounce and that's completely fine, but the risk isn't worth it to me. I'd rather just wait till we get a bullish flip and then we proceed from there. I mean, even at the worst, I'll lose a couple of percentages, and you do that anyway. You do that no matter, like, I'm not concerned. Like, there's just not enough reward with the risk. I'd wait for it to flip. Now, we also failed on the 50 of the RSI so far. This could change because this affects the current candle, which is not closed yet. So keeping that in mind. But so far, I don't really like the way Ethereum is structured. I do like this hold. I think this is good. But this isn't really, this is already closed below this level. So you're like within a range, and I don't really like that. typically that's not a good structure to trade off of. And so I'm looking basically for um, a stronger close closer to the 2140 range or a bounce off of this red trend line here. One of the two. So very similar to Bitcoin in that regard. Again, Aroon is bearish, and so that's a higher emphasis for me to focus on. I am not interested in trading any bullish price action right now because the price action isn't bullish right now, according to Aroon. And so that's pretty much Ethereum. Very short and sweet with that one. We'll go to Solana, and I'll cover some tokens as well with Solana. All right, on to Solana here on the weekly. And so, again, same situation here. Bearish candle to start off from the previous week. That's completely okay. We had a pretty big run up. We actually had a bearish candle not too long ago prior to that. And a lot of these don't necessarily matter or don't matter. It's just as far as how the trend goes. Now, as far as the Aroon goes, we have started a bearish wedge, so this is something that we need to consider as far as maybe an extended downtrend on this. We'll see. There's a lot of confusion. Aroon's been very confusing to interpret as far as Solana, and part of that is because like a lot of the mania surrounding Solana is outside the bounds of TA anyway. It's a lot of hype, and when hype happens, it tends to be, no TA really tends to stand up as far as the hype is concerned. But it's been pretty active. We've looked at a lot of Solana tokens. There's some in particular that are worth talking about now, like Nosana or BONK. BONK was probably one of the first coins that we talked about. Everybody knows the story with BONK, and we can kind of cover that later on in the video. But some of these I haven't mentioned because some of them, the one in particular has done 10x today, and actually it did 14x, and it kind of retraced down, and now it's currently about 8x to where I had from for the past 2 days. So it's one of those things. That's why I do think Knowhere Premium can be helpful because I will only mention these caps um, on the day in Knowhere Premium. I will mention them after the fact on Twitter and other parts of my brand, but as far as the current day, as far as me knowing about it, I usually post about them within the same day or even the same hour at some point. So just keep that overall in perspective. And so this is good. We have some divergence here on the weekly on Solana, which is also something we need to be mindful of. Doesn't really tend to happen too much, and when it does kind of end up being a top signal. This is one of your examples, and we also had an example right here as well. And so we're kind of getting that. So my gut feeling says we are going to go into a reaccumulation phase. And we'll see. So maybe something similar to this, but not as strong. That's not reaccumulation either, by the way. But we could see maybe a chop back and forth at this level for maybe the next month or so. And again, now that the wedge is in play, we have kind of a range to consider. So this is the top of the range at $79. I mentioned that the top would be roughly 78 to 80. We have qualified for that. And so now this is your going range that we need to break out of this. A break above 80, we're good to go for an extended rally. That's also why I mentioned Darvas boxes as one of my theories, because this is a Darvas box. What I just drew right here. And so if we get a if we get a close above here, it has to be a close above the highs. Then you could do it along something similar to that and go like so, and that's your new price point. And that actually, that's not a bad theoretical play right here, because if it goes up to new all-time highs and the divergence is invalidated, especially, it should not go below, and so a tight stop would probably be actually a decent move. And honestly, I'd probably actually target this line below this to see if I can, something like so. Yeah, pretty much like so, maybe 9-10% stop, targeting the local top or the all-time high. It's actually a pretty decent play, so feel free to keep that in mind. Um, as far as this also goes, you have your distribution that we looked at before on the other coins. There's your situation with that. We kind of broke below. Actually, you can see with this deleted, you can see that we didn't break below. We stayed below, I should say. We have this as our current resistance. It's trying to consolidate underneath it, which would be a bullish sign, but we still need a break and hold 75.82. So we really need to hold $76 on the weekly. That's what we need to do. That's the trigger point for me to think that we are going to go higher. Now the good news is on the weekly the Aroon still is bullish, but we do have that bearish consolidation, so that is worth mentioning. Overall, still pretty healthy. And a lot of the Solana tokens are doing pretty good today. It's actually, Solana itself is doing pretty good today as well. Phantom is also doing pretty good, and that's a little bit of a hint of what I mentioned, Knowhere Premium, that I do think FTM is going to rally pretty significantly, but we'll get into that maybe in another video. But we did hold above the weekly still, so that's good. Don't fade FTM, in my opinion. So going on to the daily, so I have this structure. This is actually from a KuCoin chart instead, but it has a similar layout. What I want to mention here is we basically have a rising wedge on the daily. This is covering the trend line. I do think this is going to break down, and I do think this could go as low as $58, but I think 65 is probably more mindful. I do think this could go into a reaccumulation period. That's kind of what I'm looking at, and honestly, it ends up boiling down to this wedge also. If it closes above 76, then I'm long, and super long as far as that goes. If it breaks above this trend line, I'm also long in that regards. If this breaks below this, now I'm looking for buy opportunities on a reaccumulation pattern. If that doesn't work, then we're going to go short overall, and we probably can go to $45. I don't think we're going to go to $45. I used to think that we would go to 48. I don't think that that's no longer the case. I don't. We'd have to do a lot, um, and mainly that has to do with the Solana tokens. I don't think that we're going to go down that low, knowing that because people are buying Solana tokens on the Solana chain, they have to hold Solana for the most part. They don't always have to, but you need it for gas. You don't need a lot of gas, but I think that adds up, especially when Solana is still, in my opinion, very cheap. $72 is still very cheap. We're about 50% up to all-time high, but I do think Solana will go to $600, $700. I think 650 is very reasonable, honestly. Um, and there's a chance it could go to 1200. I do think Solana. I've said this for probably 3 or 4 months now. I do think Solana was your best chance to get a really obvious coin at a really good price. I really do. And so far that's been the case. I'm up almost 400% from where I bought on my Solana, and all the tokens are up. Most of them are. I think all of them are profit. Most of them are 2x or 3x, and some of them are even 5, and one of them is 10. So it's been very, very profitable. And also too, if you've listened to this far and you're interested in, like, I did mention, like, is there a new 10x coin? Well, actually, there's a lot. There's a lot. You just got to find them, and that's where I think my Knowhere Premium does come into play. Is I'm looking at the charts constantly. I'm not just looking at charts and giving you whatever BS. I'm actually trading the portfolio as well. I have a Solana trade portfolio dedicated to Solana token trades. Not many people are doing that online. I'm able to share that. That's a Knowhere Premium only thing, and everyone has been happy in that regards. It's been very good. So if you're interested in the next 10x coin, Knowhere Premium is going to be the go-to place to get it from me, if it occurs. So just keep that in mind. So overall, that's what I see on Solana. We can kind of go over a few other ones. Maybe I'll do an extended video right here and do AVAX, FTM, and BONK. So I think I'm actually going to start with BONK first and kind of go into the weekly perspective here. Weekly, there's no divergence on this. Funny enough, we had 96 on the RSI. Now, honestly, I know that's cliche to talk about, but 96 is pretty freaking high. And so, relatively speaking, I think this could top out for probably the next 2 months, or at least the next month. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that's just a good chance to reload, perhaps. I don't think Bonk is dead by any means. I still think that we have a ways to go, but maybe we're going to cool off. And so a lot of people really keep it in mind with SHIB. And so let's see, where was SHIB at here? And so SHIB kind of, so actually it did a pump relative to here about the same time it got listed. And I was so close to trading SHIB, and I missed out on SHIB actually, but it went ahead and dropped down, from May to like August. So made 4 months, roughly 3 to 4 months. I do think the same thing can happen to Bonk. I don't see why it wouldn't. And actually, that's a pretty that gives you a good buy opportunity. The thing is like everybody's looking for a buy opportunity for bonk, right? But the trick is it might take longer than you think, and this was just long enough to where people gave up. They got the hype, and then they gave up right around here, and then people that stayed paid off. They got an 8x out of that, so you still could get an 8x out of bonk. I'm not saying you will. I'm not saying you won't, but it's one of those things. Like let's go back to SHIB. Actually, we had a drop from here, so we had a 56% drop. That's very reasonable for bonk. I see no reason why we couldn't do a 50% drop, and I don't think that that's even bearish per se. I mean, I think that we could go back here to this breaker honestly and do something like so, and that would be a really good pain point. That would probably, there's that guy that's holding a 12 million market cap, like, or 12 million profit. Is he going to hold down 75% to 3 million? That's going to be a heartbreaking thing. I don't know. I'm not here to tell people what to do or not do, but I would feel pretty stupid. 12 million is absolutely life-changing money to almost every single person in the world. Okay, the only people that don't are people that they don't even need 100 million, much less 12 million. Those are people that have already made it, right? And so it's one of those things. Most of you are lying if you don't think $12 million is like. Even if you have $100 million already, which most of you don't probably. Even if you have 100 million, 12 million is still life changing money. You're still able to do a lot. Like you're telling me you don't want to increase your net worth by 12%. It doesn't make sense. 12 million, people underestimate how much you can get for $12 million. So anyway, that's just me. I'm not here to tell people what to do, but we could see as low as 76% on that. I don't really want to speculate too much on that because it's kind of hard to do with a coin like this that is just susceptible to the mania. But this is probably where I would go. So this would probably be your first area, honestly, and then your second area is down here. And so if you go down to the current or from the top of that, that would be about 51%. So we could go there. I think that's pretty reasonable, but I think a lot of people might expect that. And so this would be your next range at about 80%. So just keeping that in mind, this was a trade that I looked at, personal trade that I already closed. So that's bonk in a nutshell. We're going to go ahead and go to AVAX. So this was a trade I looked at, didn't trigger. This was like a Darvis box play that we were looking at in Discord. Didn't turn out. But going here to the weekly, we had a bullish candle to close, so that's pretty good. We have a bearish consolidation, however, so this could retrace. I did mention that this could go up to $55. Now, the trouble is with AVAX and other coins is that the gas fees have skyrocketed because people are trying to use ordinals on EVM chains. It does work for Bitcoin. It does not work for EVM chains, and basically they're congesting. They're congesting the network, or trying to inscribe these. They're called XRCs. That's actually an off-chain. You can read it off-chain, but you have to process it on-chain, and it's very complicated. That's going to be part of what my dedicated video will be about in Knowhere Premium. But the long story is that results into higher gas prices, and so that's why some of you guys are paying $50, even $200 a trade on AVAX and other coins, and AVAX just has not. It was profitable for like a day or two, but it just doesn't have the integrity that Solana has to rely on it as a full chain. Okay, I would actually trust DOT more than AVAX right now. AVAX is AVAX is basically just Ethereum with a few different changes, with a triangular consensus method. That's basically what it is in a nutshell. It's more complicated than that, but that's basically what it is. So, I think Solana brings much more character and strength and potential than AVAX does, just because Solana is the reason why it's up here is because it's not an EVM chain. Okay, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Solana are the top three coins with dedicated chains with dedicated like unique features. Okay, AVAX does not count. XRP is the next one actually. Excuse me. But even XRP has its own issues. I don't want to get into that today. AVAX, however, is an EVM chain, and so EVMs are basically chains that act like Ethereum but are not Ethereum. And so they basically copied their code from Ethereum, made some changes, made their own chain. That's an alternative to L2s, so they're going to behave more like L2s. And so think of EVMs as like Litecoin, like how Litecoin is related to Bitcoin, AVAX is related to Ethereum. And so do you really want to have a coin like AVAX, which is basically a smart contract version of Litecoin? You know, there's the answer is up to you, honestly. But as far as that goes, for potential, the strength and uniqueness of Solana is way far and beyond AVAX, in my opinion. I don't think it even comes close. And so, even something like Binance Coin might be above AVAX in that regard. I don't even care for Binance Coin in that regard, but Dogecoin at least has its own, meme, and FTM as well. So we'll get into FTM in a second because that's I think that's the dark horse right now is FTM. And so, as far as the weekly goes, that's the setup. Consolidation on the bearish side, no divergence, but it is overextending there. Going to the daily, um, no divergence. I think there might be a slight divergence as well, but we have a good test point of this. I think that was on the 4 hour, and so that's looking pretty good. We need to break this trend line. Um, this could rally, but again, I'm waiting for this break overall on the upside or the downside. That will help me determine the long term, um, not long term necessarily, but the multi month direction on that. But we'll see where that goes. I am eyeballing the upside. Downside, I would probably start buying maybe at the $30, $28 range. I'd probably long at a close above the $40 range. So that is AVAX on to Phantom to end the video. All right, going on to FTM, going on the weekly. And one reason I want to cover this in this video is because of the weekly perspective. This looks really, really good. So we actually closed bearish last week, but a pretty decently, Darth Maul recovery candle looking pretty good. The RSI is pretty well at a healthy range. Far below, well, actually, it's pretty much on par with all these except for Solana. So I guess that's better than I thought it was. But this structure here is complex because one, it broke the weekly. I like that a lot. The weekly break above this was a bullish breaker candle. You needed to retest this liquidity area right here. Let me I guess I should probably highlight it, right? And so once you get a break above this, anywhere between the high of that to the high of the low, that's where you want to retest. We actually went almost completely to the bottom of that, so this is a valid retest. So this is longable again from a liquidity perspective. And so we went ahead and dipped below that right now in the past 24 hours. So this is looking good. If this can close above here, this looks like a really great long signal, honestly. And so let me kind of set that up. If this goes here like so, I'd probably put your close somewhere between the below the breaker retest that we had. And this is something that I would want to hold on for some time. And so that's something that I'm looking at, even maybe longer. I do think Phantom could go to all-time high, but I'm not sure just yet. If we do the fib structure, that's probably more in line with right here, about a 4.3x or just 4x to be a little more lenient and conservative, whatever you want to say. And so this is a pretty good opportunity for me. This weekly is very, very, very strong, and we just broke through this range. The only thing that's really stopping us is this structure right here. And so that's something to be said, but we already broke above that 2 weeks ago. We held above that, and now we're going above this again. And so now I do think going to 48 cents is going to be very likely. If that goes beyond that, then I think that's pretty good. Really good structure. I like this a lot. So this is kind of like the next coin that I'm interested in. Phantom is its own chain, by the way. It has a pretty decent selection of coins. I think a relatively decent set of developers as well. I don't think they have NFTs or anything like that, not for sure, but that looks pretty good. And there's some other coins that I like as well for their own chains, but that's another video. So, looking good overall. This is your daily structure. You had the divergence, so that's something to keep in mind. This is a long position that I had, but I think I closed it already, and so this is your structure. Doing pretty good overall. Needs to hold really on the horizontal on about 39 cents basically. So doing pretty good. Keep mindful of Phantom, in the next 3 months, 6 months, and see where that takes you. So So anyway, that's the video. I hope you enjoyed it. Overall, the general structure is I do think the market is still very bullish. I do, however, think that we are due for a small retrace reaccumulation period. I don't really know what that looks like yet, but I do think that we're going to cool down. The market is kind of showing you that, especially when only a few coins, and just think like Bitcoin, Solana, and Phantom, those are the three coins that I mentioned today, and all three of those are doing really good. And so those coins are going to do good. Overall, the other ones are not. You got to have like a musical chairs of liquidity going on. Typically, that results in more of a reaccumulation cool down period. We'll see how that goes. However, Ethereum is a little sluggish. Solana is still doing very good, but it could go down here the next week or two, cool down for the holidays. AVAX, I am concerned about that, but we are playing the range. Phantom looks great. And then BONK, I also think could retrace. It could go up for now for sure, but I do think a drop of 50% is likely at some point in the next 2 months. So keep that in mind. Keep up on those positions. Let me know if you have any questions. The links are in the description of all the things that I've mentioned today. I hope you have a good rest of the week. I'm gonna be on a 2 day vacation this week, so I still will be available in Discord. Let me know if you have any questions. I'll see you next time. Have a good Christmas.